Hello, everyone. This is Lenard Guzman with Emily Robinson on the Modern Divorce Podcast. We're here December 20th, 2021. We're closing out the year here, one of our last podcasts of the year. So, Emily, how are things going? At the end of the year, things come up. We kind of talked about this last week, but even closer to the new year.
Yeah, I think as it gets closer and closer to Christmas and the new year, people don't want to deal with their, frustrating divorce issues. So things kind of slow down usually for me, and people just sort of say, you know what, let's deal with everything in January because I don't want to worry about it right now.
Yeah, just wait like 10 or 11 days and everyone's having presents and
Exactly.
eggnog. I don't drink eggnog, but I'm offered it all the time. I tried it once. I'm not a big fan.
Oh, I love eggnog. That's like my favorite thing about the holidays. But yeah, I think January for me is one of the most depressing months because all the holiday hype is done. And now everybody's like, okay, let's get this done. And it's like crazy busy for me and sad because now life is back to normal. And I don't know. I think there are actually studies that show January is the month with the highest rates of depression.
Oh, okay. Because part of the aftermath of the holidays or getting
Right.
back to work, and you're like, I don't want to go back. All right, let's get into a few things. Hopefully, not too many holiday topics for people who are listening who want to get into the news and then the divorce advice and Emily's perspective. So let's get into the show where we go over the news, the trends on Google, and let's get to our first topic here. So this issue about moving in together, should you live with your boyfriend before you get married? So let's get into that one because that's one that goes back and forth. So religious upbringing may reduce divorce risk, but probably not for the reason you think. Religious marriage paradox says when to marry hinges on life and relationship choices, not chronologically. So this is from the Deseret.com. I don't know this one, so hopefully it's a good one here. So religious couples who marry young seem to buck the traditional wisdom that young marriages are nearly doomed to end in divorce. Some research finds marriages are more likely to last when people wed around age 30, which is becoming a national norm. But a new analysis for the Institute for Family Studies finds that religious upbringing seems to offer some protection against divorce for those who marry younger. This study suggests the differences stems from the fact that those raised in religious homes are less apt to cohabit before marriage, which is both extremely common and risky, though more than 7 in 10 U.S. marriages since 2010 follow a period of cohabitation, which you move in together. I think that's a big word. A recent Stanford University found premarital cohabitation has short-term benefits and longer-term costs for marital stability. Using data from more than 52,000 women ages 15 to 49 in the National Survey of Family Growth from 1995 and 2019, demographer Layman Stone and sociologist W. Bradford Wilcox found religious Americans are less likely to divorce, even though they're more prone to marry in their 20s. So what do you think of the data? I know the U.S. is so big. There's so many different demographics, age, sex, ethnicities. What do you think?
Yeah. That's true. Like there's so many things that could affect this that it's really hard to tie it to one factor. But I do think if people are more religious, they're probably less likely to get divorced because it may be against their religion. It may be there may be a lot of family pressure or pressure from their religious institution. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're happier, but it may mean that they aren't as comfortable with divorce as other people are.
Okay, because they have like a I guess a ethos to live by,
Right.
like a code. So it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Or like even some religions, I think, don't allow divorce. So, that may be an issue too.
Yeah, in the Philippines, there's no, like, divorce is not legal, but annulments are. So it's kind of like, it's a thing, like, I guess a go around, somehow. But it's like that doesn't apply to
And I've
us.
had that. I actually had that issue before where I had someone get divorced here and they couldn't get it recognized in the Philippines, which is where they were from. And it was causing really big problems because they wanted to get remarried. And the Philippines would not recognize the divorce. So yeah, it can cause a lot of issues.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. It's like anything else. It's like tax law. It's like the jurisdiction is different.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll follow with that one later. So we'll go to this one. There's a lot of divorce studies here. Studies here. This next one is from MSN.com. So you're twice as likely to get divorced if you do this before marriage. Okay, with marriage and divorce rates both in decline, it seems couples are bidding their time before tying the knot in hopes of a better union. However, not all marriages end happily ever after, and research shows that certain factors tip the scales in favor of a breakup. In fact, a 2020 study published in the Journal of Family Psychology says there's one thing you may do before the marriage even begins that doubles your chances of getting a divorce. They say if you and your partner have done this one thing prior to getting hitched, your risk of a split is twice as high compared with couples who have not. Of course, yeah, we have to read on. We don't get the where is it? Come on. Okay. Let's pause. Let me find this answer because it's like a cliffhanger here. Okay, here we go. If you and your spouse had kids prior to a marriage, you're twice as likely to get divorced. So that was the answer to the riddle. Okay, so this is how they justify it in the study. The 2020 study set out to analyze the effects on relationships of having children prior to marriage. An increasing number of couples in the U.S. are entering their first marriage having already had a child together, raising important questions about whether and how these couples' marriages differ from newlywed couples who enter marriage without children, the researcher wrote. In fact, the percentage of births to unmarried mothers has more than doubled between 1980 and 2014, increasing from 18% to 40% during that time, the team noted. So last points here, after reviewing 5 waves of data collected in the first 4.5 years of marriage of 431 couples, the team discovered that the divorce rate was twice as high among couples who had shared biological children at the time of marriage, which is 19%, compared with those who did not have children at the time of marriage, 9.5%. First married newlywed couples who start their marriage with children have significantly worse marital outcomes over time relative to first married newlywed couples who start their marriage without children, consistent with earlier findings. Oh, wow, that's like a data dump to you. So what do you think of the numbers here?
Well, that's interesting. I don't think I would have guessed that, but and I don't know why that would be, except I know a lot of people feel like, getting married, one of the big purposes of getting married is to have children, and you get married when you're ready to have children. So maybe those people feel like, if they already had children, not married, and the marriage isn't working out or they're not that happy, maybe like, what's the point of staying together? Whereas a lot of people think like, oh, I want to have more children, so I at least need to stay with this person till I'm done having children. I think if you feel like you should be married to have children, that could be an incentive to stay together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. I have some friends who like done this is like it'd be their second marriage, and it's like a package thing with like multiple kids from other marriages, and then it's like a whole dynamic, because you're like, I married this person, but I didn't realize it was like you're marrying like three people, right? You have two other kids, and then the other side has a couple. So I can't imagine.
You're like marrying the whole family. That's true.
Yeah, it's like it's one for three. So that's what I thought.
And you automatically get an ex that you have to deal with as well.
Oh yeah, two. Oh well, two and yeah, because yeah. So it's a whole. It's the modern day kind of family. That's the modern divorce. So that's what we cover here. All right.
Yeah.
Let's let that one rest because it's just overwhelming to think about. Okay, so this next article is a therapist on how to tell people you're getting divorced, right? Because I'm sure this is, you get together on the holidays and this comes up. So the number one thing is give yourself patience and grace according to, so this is from mindbodygreen.com. According to Paige, which is Ken Page, the therapist, according to Paige, the first thing you want to do is keep in mind that divorce is no easy undertaking. So you'll want to offer yourself compassion, dignity, and patience. Don't feel like you have to be tougher or move on quicker, he says. And if that means you hold off on telling people, that's okay. Number two, don't feel like you have to tell everyone, especially in person. When you do feel ready to open up about divorce, that doesn't mean you have to tell everyone. Protect yourself from those people who will not respect your boundaries. Number three, lean on true friends. Talk about things you most need to talk about with those people who are safest. He adds that while divorce can bring about a lot of pain, hopefully there will be so much growth as well, and you can facilitate that by caring for yourself in the deepest ways, by sharing with the people you are safest, and by getting whatever kind of support helps you the most. The bottom line here is breaking the news of your divorce is not only difficult, but it can bring up a lot of emotions you're still actively processing. That said, you'll likely end up with a deeper sense of the people in your life who you could really trust. So what's the best thing? Like, I know this is like a really tough topic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that there's necessarily just one way to do it. I mean, that's all good advice. But I think, it's a personal thing. And I think it's really up to the person who is sharing the information. And some people are more private and some people are less private. And I think you just have to do what feels right to you. It's your life and your situation. I mean, you don't even have to tell people if you don't want to. So I think it's just, it's a very personal decision. But I do think that is very good advice.
I thought we'd have so many more like holiday topics. I don't see any in any here. So, but maybe we'll come up with one. So let's get into the show where we ask Emily anything and she answers anything. Oh, sometimes. Yeah, let's get into the post. And we go through like, the whole divorce journey, whether it's starting out, whether have trouble with child custody or dividing assets. So the first one here is the getting started one. What are my options? Divorce or legal separation? My wife and I, we're both 45. We'll be splitting up a 16-year marriage. We have two kids, they're 13 and 10, and my wife has mostly been, I don't know what this means, by choice. I make a little over 100K, and we have been able to make that stretch to raise our kids comfortably. There's numerous reasons we will be splitting up, and I'm sure she would say it's more me, and I would say it's more her. But in the end, we're not compatible to be married. When I began researching the divorce process, I came across numerous articles about reasons people legally separate, and legally separate instead, specifically health insurance and taxes. Our goal is to allow her to keep the house we are in so the kids have their home. So we will definitely need to come up with something outside the box sort of solution on how we financially split. And so we're both okay. She will find a full-time job in the near future, but realistically, the divorce will make it hard for the foreseeable next couple of years. What do you think of a legal separation used instead of a divorce to make it better for everyone? It seems like a no-brainer emotionally and would help with mental health. The only downside is I see not being able to marry anyone, which at this point is the least of our problems.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. In California, that is how it would work. You could stay, legally married, but be legally separated. And then usually you can stay on your spouse's health insurance. There's a couple exceptions, but for the most part, you can. But yes, then you can't marry somebody else. So if you decide you did want to marry somebody else after the legal separation, you'd have to open a divorce case. And there wouldn't be any more assets to divide. You would have dealt with all of that in the separation case, but you would have to actually then go through the divorce process. So you sort of have to do a second case, later down the road, which is fine. And for a lot of people, they're willing to do the legal separation first and then do the other case down the road, if that makes sense for their family. But usually if you're a younger, person that probably would want to remarry, a legal separation can be hard because you can't remarry.
Didn't see these little loopholes in the law. Interesting. Okay. Let's get to another one here. Child of divorce. Does anyone feel like, wow, that was a waste of time? What I mean is that does anyone else relate to feeling like the marriage was so meaningless, not to be overly depressing, but all the memories with your parents and siblings, all the times, and for what? Simply to be thrown away for a lack of communication. I'm in disbelief that my parents could do this to our family. For anyone going through the process with kids, please try to mend your relationship. It's so painfully terrible. So is this a common thing? People feel like, if you're a child of divorce, it's tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard different things. Some people say, it was the best thing for their parents to get divorced because being in a house with a lot of fighting and people not getting along was a bad thing. But some people say that it was incredibly painful and awful for them. So, it just depends on the person and the situation. But what, I think the research shows the most is that it's not divorce that causes the most problems for kids. It's the way the parents handle the divorce. So if they make it really messy and ugly and drag the children through, the mud in the divorce, then kids are going to probably resent it. If they do it like adults and work it out and are kind to each other, then the kids probably won't resent it as much.
Okay. We have time for one more today, and I found the holiday post. Hopefully this is a good one. So it says life after divorce, holiday blues. I am over a year post-divorce. I'm having holiday blues. The holiday blues. I have an awesome boyfriend. Everything is going great in life. These holidays are triggering memories, and it is making me sad. I'm sad my son doesn't have both his parents for the holidays. I'm sad my ex will be alone because he isolates himself from his family and people. I also don't know why I keep wanting to and cry over this. I guess I just need to get used to the new holiday schedule and move on. I don't know. Anyone else feeling this way a year out?
That's a very normal feeling. And people certainly feel it a year out because usually the holidays alternate between the parents. So it would probably take a couple year cycle for you to get used to that alternating holidays. And I think it's very typical to feel sad around the holidays because you miss the traditional holidays you would spend as a family. And it's also very hard to have your child going back and forth, and you don't get your child for the whole holidays like you used to. So I think that's very, very normal. And I think, you know, it probably takes a few years to get over that. It may be difficult for a very long time because you have to get used to the new dynamic.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. I am waiting for the Matrix. I found this Matrix kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see if we come back. We'll have one more or not. But I guess if not, Happy New Year, Emily. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Holidays to cover
You
everything.
too.
And so I hope everyone enjoyed this year. And we'll see if we come back this year, but definitely next year. Okay.
Happy holidays.